and create a show that kind of emulated that brand of humor. Because BBC did like book adaptations, audio drama adaptations of all of his books, like Mort, Hogfather, Guards, and they're all fantastic. Um, I had been working freelance for Melody Gun Productions with Hamed Hokamzadeh, who was the owner of the company at the time, and I had told him like, "Hey, I've got this idea of trying to make an audio drama. They're like this big thing that I know I can do a good job with. We can produce our own content instead of like working on films and other things like that. All I have to do is just record some voices, put some sound effects in, and it's going to be great. It's going to be big." And I'm like almost foaming at the mouth trying to explain this to him. And he kind of leans back and is like, yeah, sure. I mean, what would it be about? I go, oh, it's going to be great. It's going to have like this wizard who you can't trust, and he's going to have all these explosions go off and things like that. And he goes, yeah, that sounds well prepared. Maybe if you could construct like what this might sound like, maybe I'll have an idea on what you're going on about. And I kind of clench my fists, like, okay, I can make it. This will be great. So I get a couple of my friends together, and I don't exactly explain the full detail of what I'm trying to do because I'm so excited about this. And I pull them into the recording booth, which I use in heavy finger quotes because my recording booth was a microphone about 5 feet away from my computer in my bedroom at the time.
Oh my gosh.
So they're trying to record all these lines, and you're just hearing of the lap of both of my computers crying out in agony trying to record this thing.
Oh no.
And we construct a proof of concept of a Magus and his assistant working with two scientists from another dimension, learning how to do a science experiment and cast a spell, respectively. The two magi would work on the science experiment. The two scientists would cast a spell, and just how neither of them could pull it off properly. And I showed it to him, and it was he was really impressed by it. He says, "Wow, this actually sounds really good. How much can you make?" And I go, "I will make as much as I can." So I wrote it. I started writing, and it took me between jobs, trying to get contracts and other things like that. I kind of had to treat it like a hobby. So I ended up making like 11 episodes, and then just as I finish the 11th episode, I take a step back. I survey all that I see. I look over everything. I examine every line, and I say to myself, "This is awful." I hated so much of where I was going with the story, and this is like supposed to be like my first proper directorial creation. So I was so dissatisfied with it. Where I'm reading the last episode, and I'm like, I have a climax in an underwater volcano against a giant sentient robot, and I'm bored. How did I come here? So I went back. I kind of had to like really mull over everything, and I give my co-director a call and come up with a meeting. We sit down at Barnes and Noble. He's like, "Okay, what's this meeting about?" He goes, "I want to start over." He goes, "What do you mean start over?" I go, "I want to start this from scratch and rewrite all of this." And he just kind of looks at me, just absolutely flabbergasted. Like, you spent like months working on this. How are you not happy with this now?
Oh no. and you wonder why the coffee tastes so bad at times too, or good, depends on your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, like ultimately it was for the better because we in the first draft we didn't have our main villain. We didn't have a lot of impact in the later episodes because I started trying to tackle something a little bit more complicated.
Mm-hmm.
As because at first I was just like, oh, let's tell some jokes, let's have some fun, let's really enjoy ourselves. But then I was working on it. I was starting to experience this. What's the word I'm looking for? I was starting to experience something completely new for trying to write something, trying to create something, and that I had these constant fears, these constant worries. This, oh, is this going to be good? Will people find this funny? And I would get wrapped up in all these really complicated thought processes involving this stupid show I was trying to write about magic people exploding things.
You know what? It makes me think of Lucky Charms and Magically Delicious, and maybe if you gave them some of that, maybe they will explode, maybe it'll turn to bubble gum or something. But or maybe it's just you're maybe having like overthinking, or something simple like that. Or I exactly get what you're saying too, but we know exactly what you're talking about. But just keep on going. It's like I love hearing most of this stuff here. So
yeah, like one thing. For example, one of the things that I had to go through that was really strange was that I was making all of these jokes about like Glumbledon, which was this place that actually had turned depression into like an economy, where like they would actually take like in our world, like people who would get bummed out and things like that actually would the area would actually produce it as like a physical thing. It was like a physical representation of an abstract concept, and that they would sell like jellies and jams, which they called glum. But like I got concerned for a bit, like, oh man, how many people am I gonna like really irritate or upset if I try talking about this kind of thing and just kind of playing it up as a joke? And I really it took a lot of time to talk about it and really think it over, and being like, well, maybe if I don't go too far into it, I had to be a little careful about it. But like that experience of being terrified that your joke would upset people was something I hadn't really gotten to experience, at least on a professional level. Like everybody's told jokes where it just doesn't fly, or it just doesn't work, or something like that. But this is like going to be like you're putting your absolute all into it, and you're not sure if bringing it out into the world, if people will like it, or if people will even find it acceptable, or things like that. You kind of get concerned. And of course, like when you're writing stuff, you're always going to have some kind of trigger some kind of emotional response, or trigger something from somebody, whether it be positive or negative. And I kind of came to terms that there was like this inherent apprehension behind that. Like, is this going to be a good thing ultimately? So I kind of explored that a little bit about, well, magic is all about trying to trigger that kind of emotional response.
And of course, you had this concern about, whatever this will go over. Have you run like this with some small groups that like small friends, get some feedback or anything before getting further into the production?
Yeah. I actually had a couple of my friends. I usually have a get-together on Fridays where we just like eat pizza, watch movies, things like that. And one thing that I started doing is I started asking them, can I read these scripts to you? And they're like, okay. And I would stand up in front of all of them, look at my script, and would do all the voices all at once in the same way that I did when I was working on audio dramas in my dorm room. And I'd have to put on different voices talking at the same time. And sometimes the voices would overlap, and they would kind of look at me like, I have no idea who's talking right now. Like, wait, hold on, I'll try. And I would like workshop the voice a little bit to get back into the groove of things. And when you're reading this stuff off of a script, like you're never going to get the kind of response that you want. Case in point, my roommate and his girlfriend are both very difficult to get to laugh. They've got very high standards about that thing. They're very intelligent, and like I'm sitting there making god awful magic puns at them, and like they sit and they're like, that was good. I enjoyed it. That was an experience. And I'm sitting there like, that's not the answer I was looking for.
At least they look glum about it, though, so there's no glumness.
It's like you get your parents like to read your story when you're 5 years old, and it's full of grammar errors and full of mistakes, and your mom and dad are like, you did your absolute best.
Right.
And I sit there like, what is that supposed to mean?
Well, there's also some encouragement as well too, and of course, as time went on, you end up winning and a very nice award. You're also nominated for another award. We'll get to more of that, a little bit more about Magus Elgar. Listen to the Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com. Powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all you need. Looking for a professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable, custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today at 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960, or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 10% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show is brought to you by Evan Fine of the Senior Reserve Group. When you start thinking about retirement, who you can call about Medicare? Why call the best? Evan Fine at Senior Reserve Group, specializing in Medicare, health, and long-term care insurance. Evan can be reached at 1-800-650-9357. That's 1-800-650-9357. Or Evan Fine by email to seniorreservegroup.com. Evan is licensed in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, Delaware, South Carolina, and Florida. Also, The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on themikewagnershow.com. You can also check our Facebook page at facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, as well on YouTube as well. You can watch the interview. We're here with Kennedy Phillips, the producer of Magus Elgar. We've been talking about a good portion of the audiobook drama that is out on Amazon and others right now. And, of course, maybe we can just give a little teasers on some of the chapters as well, too. Of course, not giving away too much of the story. And it started with the Mirror Cauldron, the first chapter. Maybe just tell us a little bit about it and how it starts leading into the story of Magus Elgar.
So the story begins with Magus Elgar, who's a sort of magic troubleshooter. He goes around all of Hearth trying to find magical anomalies and some instances gone awry of casters and the like. And his apprentice Udo, who comes from a very old and very dangerous line of sorcerers who aren't around anymore. They go to this tower where the sorcerer in Kadali is working on something dangerous with this artifact called the Mirror Cauldron. And we actually start in the middle of the action where the sorcerer is transformed into this power-mad dragon and is chasing around Udo and is trying to kill him. While Magus Elgar is just looking at the cauldron, reading books, like just not paying attention in the slightest. And after such, they decide to look into the Mirror Cauldron more carefully. By carefully, I mean Elgar wants to start casting random spells at it to figure out what it was that Sorcerer in Kadali was doing. And they end up getting sucked into another dimension. And that other dimension turns out to be our world, Earth, a world of science, where they meet Dr. Horatio, who's a quantum physicist, and his intern, Kaylee Fawn, who quickly became one of my favorite characters. After a couple of events, they end up scouring the magical world of Hearth, trying to find stamps, which is short for scientific tools augmented with magical power. All of Horatio's equipment gets lost into the magical world of Hearth due to a event in episode 3 that I'm not going to go into too much detail about. And all of his scientific tools start taking on magical properties and start bending and warping time and space around it, because science does not actually work the way it should in Hearth, because Hearth is a world of magic, much like how the world of magic doesn't quite work on Earth.
Uh-huh. That is amazing, too, as well, too. And, of course, Dr. Graw, Horatio, caffeine addict. And what does somnophobic scientist stand for? I've never seen the word somnophobic.
Somnophobia is a fear of sleeping. Horatio has this running joke where on Earth, he's constantly fueling himself with caffeine, where he almost never sleeps. And at one point they're saying, well, surely everybody needs sleep. And it's thanks to coffee, I can accomplish as much in a week as a regular scientist can in a month with just as many psychotic breakdowns. It's quite economical in the long run. So like he has he has like these night terrors or something like that. We never show too much about that because I don't think that hearing somebody screaming constantly in an audio drama is all that fun.